We just got our first angel check, and let's see whether Jessica FDAI is smart enough to mark up the Y Combinator save, and let's be brutal. Let's compare it against Claude and ChatGPT, and let's see how she fares. So now you can see we've got much more functions, and in this instance, I'll be asking Jessica to amend the construct. My instructions to all the models will be the same. I would say add my own instructions, and first, the investor would like to keep his or her identity confidential. That's ask number 1. Ask number 2 comes from us. The save should be freely assigned by the company to either a syndicate vehicle or an entity established solely for the purpose of developing AI solutions such as FBAI, DocsAI, etc. And third, because the investor has already wired, please remove the investor's signature block. I don't see the necessity of it getting signed, and I don't think the investor wants to get into the nitty-gritty details of signing the document. So let's just send the same set of instructions through to Claude and to ChatGPT, and let's see what happens. Okay, all the systems have generated their output. Let's start with Jessica. So we have built the software such that you can view the document in real time. I love how it went straight to the changes and the markups. And first, they mark up section 5D to say that neither this save nor the rights in the save can be transferred, provided that this save and its rights can be assigned without the company's consent by the investor to investors, estates, and heirs. And this save and its rights may be assigned without the investor's consent by the company to a special purpose vehicle. Okay, so we built this document editor to be very intuitive for drafting. So you can see in the right panel, you have your instructions, which was the instructions I gave it. Over here, you can go to next change, previous change, to look at whether you want to accept or reject the change. And then you can collate your notes so that you don't have to go back to the chat interface to type your notes and additional changes you want to make to the document. For the confidentiality provision, what Jessica did was Jessica placed it right at the end to say the company and the investor each agree to keep confidential and not disclose to any third party the identity of the investor and existence of the save, except with the private and consent of the other party, to each party's directors, officers, employees, agents, as required by law or in connection with any fundraising, provided that the recipient be bound by confidentiality obligations no less protective than this section 5.5. Now, let's see what ChatGPT and Claude have produced in parallel. So for ChatGPT, they said I've revised the document based on your changes. In this document, they don't seem to have a document editor function, so we will have to download the document. Unfortunately, they marked it up not in track changes, which makes it a little bit difficult for us to review the changes. But let's perhaps prompt it further to say, please mark up the document in track changes. Whilst they focus on our next instruction, let's look at what they have sent across. So first, they replaced the investor name on the first page with confidential investor to avoid identifying the investor in the document. I'm not sure whether this will be the correct thing. Second, they replaced the assignment provision so that the company can freely assign or transfer the save. Okay. And they removed the investor signature block. So let's see how they have done it. Okay. It says I can produce the document and track changes. However, they recommend that we do it on our end. Okay, so we manually marked up ChatGPT's document on our end by running a black line using the standard Microsoft compare functions. And let's see what changes ChatGPT has made. Over here, it has amended the right provision, and it says neither the save nor the rights in the save are transferable by the investor without the private and consent of the company. Well, this was not a change I asked it to do. Provided, however, the company may freely assign, transfer, and obey this save. Okay, so my main concern over here is that I asked it to introduce a confidentiality provision to protect the identity of the investor, and that would be an obligation from our side, and this was specifically requested for by the investor. But the only markup they did was to mark up this portion to call the investor confidential. I don't think that is the proper way to do it. The proper way to do it was the way that Jessica did, which is to introduce a provision setting out the substantive obligation that parties have to keep the investor's identity confidential other than in certain instances. However, that said, it did do a pretty decent job marking up the safe assignment clause to give me what I want. Okay, so this is the document that Claude has generated. Unlike ChatGPT, it has a document viewer function, which is really helpful. And in this instance, it has marked up clause 5D, which is the correct provision, to state that this save cannot be transferred without the prior written consent of the other party, provided further that this save and or the company's rights and or obligations may be assigned or transferred without the investor's consent by the company to any newly formed entity established as a syndicate. I think it did a little bit of hallucination and talked about financial due diligence AI, which I did not request for. It's not what I foresee that we'll be doing in the near future, because we neither do financial AI because lawyers are bad at math, haha. And due diligence AI is a very niche area that at this moment, I don't see any intention, or I don't have any intentions of getting involved in. Okay, on the confidentiality provision, it did a better job than ChatGPT, and it marks up the document. And similar to Jessica, you can download document. So we hope you enjoyed this video. I found Jessica and all the models actually very helpful in marking up a document. Obviously, I have a slight preference towards Jessica because we purpose-built Jessica for the sole reason of reviewing documents and marking up documents. You can see the new features that we release over time. And we hope you enjoyed this video. Do give Jessica a tryout. Every new account created this month or in the coming weeks will have 7 complimentary credits, which will be sufficient for you to review 7 contracts. And there will be some document types that we will reject. For example, if the file is too big, we might reject it because we are thinking that you are trying to check the system. But if you have any feedback or comments on how you can do better to improve your life as a lawyer or your task in reviewing your contracts, please let us know. I would love to hear your feedback and comments. Thank you for watching, and see you